Welcome to the North State Rocks podcast. Today's episode features Michael Kirack, founder of Kirack Construction, who started as California's youngest licensed contractor and built a thriving construction business in Susanville. Michael shares his 30-year journey through economic ups and downs, revealing how rural entrepreneurship and community engagement have shaped his success story.
Welcome to the North State Rocks podcast. Discover the hidden gems and extraordinary people of California's North State region. Join Perry Thompson, CEO of Hat Creek Construction and Materials, as he explores the vibrant communities and interesting neighbors that make our region a great place to live, work, and play. Tune in, be inspired, and rediscover the North State. This is your community. This is your story.
So Michael Kirack, Kirack Construction. So you're the founder, right? Yeah. So what's different about your business and my business is my uncle and my father founded the business, right? So I took it over, kind of worked in the business with my dad for, quite a while. And then where you started from the ground up. So kind of wanted to, I also heard that you were really young. You're really young now, right? So we're not going to age you too much, but 21 or 22 when you started the business. Does that sound about right?
Sounds about right. Yeah, I got my license, my general, I think I was 20. My general B, I was 20 years old.
20 years old.
Yeah.
So how many contractors in the state at that time were 20? You got to be one of the younger ones, I'd imagine.
I was
right?
the youngest one at the time.
Really?
Yeah. That's what they told me.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So fast forward. So how many is this your 30th year? Does that sound about right?
30th year. Yeah. Going on 31st. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a heck of a milestone, buddy. That's a heck of a milestone. So yeah. So what's, tell me why you started the company. I mean, let's just start there. Why? What were you doing at the time? 20 years old seems like not a very typical time to say, hey, I'm going to start my own business.
So my dad originally came to Susanville, I think in 68, to work at the phone company. And that's actually where he met my mom. He was actually a lineman for the Citizens Utilities. But he was fixing up houses on the side, just kind of a little extra hobby thing. And then in the late 70s, he decided he wanted to try and build one. So we did one as a family. It took a couple years. I mean, I was young. I was 8, 9, not really enough to know.
Right.
But, kind of fast forward over my, 18 years of schooling in high school, we did 3 houses as a family. You know what I mean? My dad never had his license or anything, but it was just a weekend hobby type thing. And that's kind of what got me interested in it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
wow. And did you sell those houses or did you move into them? And
we lived in them.
You lived in them,
but every house got a little nicer.
Yeah.
So our family houses, we always had a pretty nice house considering back in the times,
Right. Yeah.
But that got me interested in construction. So in high school, junior, senior year, I was doing little remodel jobs and decks and different things. Where I actually got my start making money was D&L Distributing, which was a local beer plant here in Susanville.
Yeah.
I actually started working there in the 6th grade, believe it or not.
No way.
I running forklift, packing cans. I mean, it was pretty cool. I got the opportunity to do that because we knew the owner. My family knew the owner.
I see. Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the biggest tragedies happening to our youth now is that, legally they can't work until they're, in most cases, 18. But I think like high school, it's 16 if they have a note and their parents agreed to it and the employer agrees to it. And a lot of insurance companies won't cover, kids under 18. So unfortunately, a lot of kids, I was like you, Michael, I started working really, really young. And I think that's one of the disservices we're doing to the youth now is not letting them feel that, I don't know, you feel pretty good about bringing a paycheck home, right? And you actually have some of your own money. And I think it establishes a work ethic real early.
Oh
So
yeah, sense of accomplishment early
yeah,
on.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's how, so you're doing that. And then what makes you go and get your license? What's the jump over there?
So I, right out of high school, I went to work. I worked for a couple local contractors here, Dave Lee Construction. I started with him right out of high school and worked with him one summer. And then went to work for Kevin DeRose, worked for him for about 3 years. And I just realized that, I wanted something more. I
Yeah.
just didn't want to take home, a weekly paycheck. I wanted to be in the game. I wanted to make the money. If I'm doing the work, I wanted to, reap the rewards.
Right. So let's talk about that, because at this time you're 19 or 20. So how do you know what the rewards are? Because I mean, let's talk about, there's a lot of risks with starting your own company, right? There's a lot of things that can go wrong as well. So tell me how, in your mind, was your, hey, I wasn't even worried about that. I didn't even think about the risks because I didn't really understand them that well. So I just dove in, or what was your thought process back then?
Well, I didn't have a family, didn't have a wife or anything. I mean, I still lived at home. So, I
Yeah.
mean, there wasn't a lot of risk. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
the hardest thing I had was I didn't have any money. I just
Yep.
had the money that I had that I was making, just regular wages. So it wasn't like I had a
Right.
bunch of money to go out and buy real estate or any of that type of thing. So the
Right.
hardest thing was actually getting credit to borrow the money to move forward. That was one of the hardest things that I stumbled across because I'd
So how
always
did you do it? How did you get the money to start?
so I always
How-
paid cash for everything because that's how I was.
Yeah.
So I had a new pickup truck that I had bought and some other equipment trailers. I had a couple of those that I paid cash for. So I went to Plumas Bank, which was a branch here locally, local bank,
Yep.
and they actually they loaned me the money against that equipment that I had, the truck and trailers.
I see. Excellent.
So they gave me
Excellent.
a line of credit. It was like 25 grand to get started.
Okay. And so kind of, do you remember what some of your big milestone projects that kind of transitioned you from one size to the next size, and kind of talk through that for the first few years?
So it was a lot of single family residences, just, maybe one or two here and there. And then I stepped up and was doing 5 to 8. And then my biggest milestones was a subdivision up Shadow Mountain. It was 100 units. Built that about halfway out. That was one of my big milestones. And then it's just kind of morphed from there.
Yeah. So that built that half. So was that your subdivision, or did a developer hire you to build the houses on their subdivision?
No, that was all mine. I bought the raw land and developed it.
Wow. Jeez. And how old were you at that time?
Oh, late 20s, probably.
Michael, that's unbelievable. I feel like I'm going to give you some crap about you kind of gone backwards. What the hell?
Yeah, it's crazy,
I'm,
isn't it?
I'm kidding. That blows me away. I'm teasing you, but that blows me away that you're building. You have 100 lot subdivision that you did yourself in your late 20s. That, my banker was here just a couple days ago, and he was talking about how one of the housing, in his opinion, one of the housing challenges now, and the reason housing is so, even when the economy is kind of shaking, interest rates are high, there's still pretty high demand for houses in most markets. And he was explaining that those post 2008 laws that came into effect, one of the big ones was, you used to be able to, when you start a subdivision, you could pull, you could kind of pull money out as you were going, as you were selling houses. The owner could pull money out as he went. And now, it's more complicated than this, but the nickel version is, you can't pull any money as the owner, not even to pay taxes, until until the bank is completely paid out, is what he was explaining to me, And so he said it's really crippled that subdivision world, unless, the people are independently wealthy and can kind of self-fund it. But the banks are kind of out of that game. So it's hard money lenders. It's more of that stuff that's kind of made it more difficult for most people. Have you seen that?
Well, so 2008, that was I was just getting that. That's why I say I only built half the subdivision out, because
See, okay,
when '07, I mean, we're selling houses up there for almost $500,000. I mean, these are,
right,
nice houses, but
right.
they're spec, they're smaller
Yeah,
houses. And
right.
I'm just thinking, how are these people affording this? How can this keep going? Because it was insane.
Yeah,
So as we start creeping closer to '08, I started seeing, things were getting soft. I didn't have a backlog of people saying, I want houses, I want houses. I ended up having 2 or 3 houses that were done sitting and I wasn't selling them.
yeah,
So I started scaling back, and I did not complete the other 50 lots. I had all the roads I had the streets and the pads cut. I
sure.
stopped at underground, and it's a good
Yeah,
thing I did. If I
yeah.
wouldn't have stopped, I would have been done.
Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty incredible in your late 20s to have the discipline to recognize that the economy's changing, number one. And then number two, when you're making money, everything's going great, to recognize that change and just not, because, at that point, I'm a couple years older than you, but at that point, we've been through some recessions younger, but nothing like '08. Nobody had been through anything like '08. So it's incredible to me that you had the foresight to go, this isn't just going to be a little blip. I got to stop. So, especially in your late 20s, I feel like most people don't have that level of maturity to go. I mean, especially when you're making money, doing really well, you're like, oh, it'll turn around. I'm just going to keep going because I want to keep this money going. So, why do you suppose you were different than most people? Because a lot of people in '08 just kept building. I mean, we watched it happen. And then bankruptcy after bankruptcy after bankruptcy of builders. So why were you different, do you think?
Well, when you work hard, I mean, I was working 80, 90 hours a week, just
Yeah,
go, go, go. When you work hard for something, you don't want to lose it. I've
right.
always been that way. I mean, when you
Yeah,
work your ass off and potentially you could lose it overnight. That was a point where I started getting cautious on stuff. And
yeah,
I had actually, I mean, I was making really good money, but I was not spending it. I was
right.
actually investing it and holding on to it. And that's what led me through the recession. I mean, it drained a lot of what I had saved up, but that's what kept me going.
So when you say you invested it, can you kind of elaborate on that? I mean, we don't have to have super details, but just in general, kind of where were you investing in your own rentals? Were you putting it under your pillow? What were you doing?
So I'm a guy that doesn't put all my eggs in one basket. So I
Yeah,
had it in rentals. I had it in the stock market. I had it in cash. I just had it kind of dispersed all over the place.
right,
I
right.
mean, I bought
Certainly.
real estate that, I bought it really cheap, and
Yeah,
I knew it was worth quite a bit and I could sell it at any time.
right, right.
So stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So fast forward a couple years. Did you ever finish building out that subdivision? Just out of curiosity.
Nope, still sitting up there.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. So why? I mean, I feel like I know Susanville is not a real, you know, it's not a blow up type of market. It's the population has been fairly stable, maybe even declining a little bit. Is that why? Or I feel like for example, during COVID when things were going crazy, why didn't you open up some and start building some houses then when there was some pretty high demand?
The demand here isn't that great. I mean, the people can't afford the stuff.
Right, right.
I mean, the cost of goods and services for new construction is just crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I've always admired about you is you're real cautious about how you run your business, and you have been really diversified with rentals and the type of work that you do. You do vertical, you do some horizontal stuff that's kind of in our realm. You are much more diversified than most people realize, I think. So can you just you even said it earlier on just how why has that been a philosophy since it's such an early age? Obviously, it's worked for you, so that's one reason you've kept it going. But why did you have the vision and kind of the clarity to know that you needed to have a lot of your money in different eggs and different baskets?
Well, just to have the money at your fingertips when you need it, that's the biggest thing. So in real estate, you don't have it at your fingertips, but like the market, depending on where you put it, you can pull it in and out at any time, maybe with some penalties here and there.
Yeah,
But I always say cash is king.
right.
So, I mean, having the cash in the bank was the biggest thing to, make your payments and pay payroll and ride the storm out
Yeah,
was what I did. I
yeah,
mean, still, I mean, it's taken, it took 10 years to get back. I mean, I was set. If the market would have kept going the way it was going back in '08, I mean,
right.
I'd have been done, I'd have been retired at 35. But
Yeah,
that changed the whole name of the game.
right, right. That's awesome. That's incredible. Okay. All right. So, um, let's talk about kind of your involvement with the community. So we both kind of work in small towns and small communities. To be in business for 30 years, number one, I've got to congratulate you on, because everyone knows who you are. And one of the challenges of being in a small community is you've got to really treat people right, because you just can't, for example, you can't prioritize profit over doing the right thing. And sometimes the right thing means even even when you're right, you've got to take the high road, if you know what I'm saying.
I
And
know
so
exactly what you're saying.
yeah, so kind of talk about how, because one thing I will say about you is you're pretty unfiltered. Usually, I mean, you're doing a great job on this podcast, by the way, but I've been around you enough at things that you are pretty damn unfiltered about things, and giving people a hard time and giving them shit, and which is awesome. And I feel like it's probably, 90% of the people out there absolutely love you. And there's probably 10% that can't stand you. So kind of
Oh,
talk about,
it's probably more than 10%.
I don't know about that. I think one thing I will say is everybody respects you. That's for damn sure. And how could they not? But just kind of talk about small town. And then if you guys, I know you've been doing some work in Greenville. What is kind of your sphere? And then how have you kind of managed making it in small towns?
So, what I also did, I got my General B, my license back early '90s. Well, I
Yeah.
also so with the General B, you just can't go out and bid on like a roof job or a window job. I mean, you got to have other specific licenses. So
Right.
every 4 years, I went and got another license. So I think right now I have 6 licenses. So I can go out and chase like just a roof job. I can go out and slurry parking lots, striping. I mean, I think that's a C32. I have a C8 for doing concrete work. So I mean, I'm diversified a lot that way. So I can go chase stuff that a lot of General B guys can't chase unless there's 2 or 3 trades involved. So
Right.
that's helped in a small community. I mean, it's because
Absolutely.
a lot of
Yes.
people, they may not need a house built, but they need a roof or they need some windows,
Yeah.
and the little jobs, I mean, there is profit in them if you bid them right. I
Right.
mean, we'll do anything from installing a screen door to, building a subdivision. I mean, it's there. I mean, as long as it'll pay the bills.
Yeah. So talk about your kind of employee makeup and your management makeup. I mean, how many employees do you have? How many managers do you have? Kind of what does it look like? I mean, I have a feel, but for those that will be listening that don't know, talk us through that a little bit.
So I think right now I'm running 28 full-time employees. And then I have 3 girls in my office. I have an estimator in my office that goes out and does a lot of the estimating. And then I'm running 4 different crews, gutters, 2 remodel crews, 2 construction crews. So it's just kind of everybody. We try and train everybody to know how to do everything. So at any point in time, if we're short on a crew, I can grab a guy from another crew and move him over. So that's kind of our business model, is just kind of
Yeah.
train everybody on everything. if they're willing to learn.
Yeah. And so are you finding these employees locally almost exclusively?
Yeah, I mean, I probably get 2 to 3 applications a week.
Okay.
A lot of the applications are people trying to start out, and I'm all about, hiring somebody and training them. But when you
Right.
need skilled people, it's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
find skilled people when you need them.
So do you have how many years have most employees been with you? Do they stick with you a lot, or is there pretty high turnover in your world? Talk about that a little bit.
I got guys that have been with me since I started.
That's amazing.
They're still here.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say average is probably 7, 8 years, 9 years,
Okay.
and they're
Okay.
still here. So it could
Yeah.
keep going even further.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, it's great that you're doing that training. As a lot of people, um, I've heard a lot from a lot of other business owners, man, just about the time I train him and I get them where they need to be, they leave, they move on. And so one of the things that we figured out is when we're really trying to find, a pretty talented employee, we try and one of the kind of prerequisites obviously is our core values. That's a huge thing for us. And then in addition to that, it's kind of having some roots tied to the communities we work in, right? So they've got family that lives here. They grew up here. They moved away. They want to come back. One thing that we have learned is it doesn't matter how much money you pay somebody if they don't want to live and recognize, there's pros and cons everywhere you live, right? So if you live in the city, there's Starbucks in every corner. There's lots of shopping. There's all that kind of stuff. But you couldn't pay me to live in a city. Now, when up here, outdoor recreation, where we get to work every day just blows my mind. We're not in any traffic jams. It's just an incredible place to work. But what we figured out is you have to find like-minded people where they also recognize the strengths of these communities. And oftentimes it's not just, if you're hiring a male position, their wife has to also see those things. Because we've had some guys they love it. And then their wife is like, wait, there's no Starbucks. There's no, TJ Maxx. I'm out of here. Right. And so have you kind of done the same thing with community roots, or have you been successful in bringing people from out of the area and making them stick?
All my employees, they're local. I mean,
Okay.
they have
Yeah.
families here. I mean, they've been in the area for a long time. A lot of
Yeah.
my family works for me, so that's built in excellence right there. I mean, they've helped me through the years. I mean, just hard workers. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot.
So, that's a great transition. So your brother, Darren, works with you. So you and your wife are the sole owners of the business. Is that correct?
I'm sole owner.
You're sole owner. Okay. So you're sole owner and your brother works for you and has a pretty important role in the company. Your sister-in-law, Julie, works in the office there in a very important role. So talk about one of the things I wanted to tell you. I was talking to Julie before our podcast, and first of all, she just said a bunch of just super complimentary things about you. But one of them was, a lot of people. Michael has the biggest heart of anybody I've ever met. And coming from a sister-in-law, I think that's extra special because, sister-in-laws, they know your flaws as well, right? So
Oh,
they know, and they work closely with you. And so I think that speaks a lot to that. Even though you're the sole owner, that family owned feel I get from your company. I feel like all the people there feel like that they're owners, especially your brother and your sister-in-law, and even your dad. I know your dad runs around in a company pickup a lot. I see him out and about all the time. So just talk about having family involved. I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but can you expand on it a little bit more for us?
well, one of the biggest things is the trust. I mean, we've always been a close knit family. I mean,
Yeah.
I can trust them with anything. I don't have to worry about things. I mean, it's a good feeling. I mean,
Right.
we don't, me and my brother never argued, never fought, never any of that when we were younger. I mean, if
Yeah.
we did, we'd probably got our asses kicked by our dad. So, you
Yeah.
got to get along.
Right.
So
Right.
no, if it wasn't for my family, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I mean, it's been a huge help to me. I mean, it's having Darren. Darren's one of the smartest, hardest working persons I've ever been around. I mean, he can literally do anything,
Yeah.
and that helps. I mean, and he's probably more. He's the cautious one. I mean, I'll tell him, hey, go do this. Let's just get that done. He's like, no, Michael, you need to call USA before you stick a bucket in the ground, or you need to go get a building permit. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, get it done and be done before anybody knows about it. And Darren's
Right.
like, no, we're going to do this the right way. So
Yeah.
he's the little birdie sitting up on my shoulder telling me, hey, slow it down and do it right.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, and I would agree. So I have Weston in the business with me, and he's the co-owner of the company. But I remember going after him for 2 years when he was working for Granite Construction and S&C Construction. I'm like, I need help, bud. You've got to come home. I knew he wanted to come home eventually, because it's a great place to raise kids. But at that point, he wasn't there yet, and I know exactly what you mean. Having somebody has your back and is just really has the best interest of you and the company at heart at all times, and that is priceless. It's an absolute priceless gift to have within the company. And I'm sure you can get that without it being family, but I think family is kind of fast forwards that process a little bit, because you've spent a lifetime building that trust. You know that they're stand-up people, and because you've been with them your whole life, and you just know. Whereas somebody that you hire, it takes a while to build. Well, you'll never emulate a lifetime of trust, I guess, is what it boils down to, right?
Right. Well, bottom line is you're only as good as your employees. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
100%. Yeah. So, Michael, one of the things, let's just talk about that for a minute, because that's another segue. So, one of the things that we started doing about, oh boy, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, is we really started leaning hard into our core values of just, we identified them. And then, but to part of living them is basically the nickel version is no a-holes, no jerks, right? And we had people that were really talented, but were toxic for the culture, if you know what I mean.
oh yeah.
So like they can do their job, they can do it really well, but people don't trust them, they don't like them, but they're performers, they bring in a lot of money, whatever it is, or they're just a fantastic master mechanic, whatever the thing is. And we really, as a company, we had all these excuses like, well, you don't understand how hard it is to have a really talented employee in these rural communities and blah, blah, blah. You have all these damn excuses. And I'll tell you, our company really transformed when we started letting go those people. And it was terrifying because you're not sure you're going to get anybody that good, because they have a very specific talent set that you just can't find anywhere, especially in small towns. And so we started doing that. And one of the things is our culture got stronger, our people, the team just pulled together even more. And I'll be gosh darn, but every single time we did that, we'd have like two incredible people walk in the door, just like the universe or God or whatever you want to call it is blessing you for making the right decision to protect the team, right? Protect your culture from those a-holes. I'm just kind of curious how you deal with that in your small towns. Do you kind of have a similar strategy, or do you,
Oh,
do you,
same
do you
thing. I
yeah,
I've kept people because, like you say, they have skills. I didn't think I could be without them because of their skills. They made me money, but they created a toxic work environment. I
right.
mean, it would cause issues with other employees and
Yep.
HR nightmare. I
Yes.
mean, and like you're saying, when you finally realize, bottom the day I let one of them go was probably one of the best days in my company because there was actually two other guys stepped forward
Right.
that knew how to do their job and wanted to do their job. They were just afraid to even be around because of how toxic the employee was.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah,
it was a huge relief, once you figure it out. And then that's another thing I don't like the feeling of having somebody, you feel like somebody's got a hold on you. And
yeah.
once that hold is let go, I mean, it's great.
Yeah, we've talked about that too. Never being held hostage, right? So it's bad for the company, it's bad for all the employees, and it's your job to protect them from that. But yeah, we had examples in the past where an individual has a very particular skill set, like for example, running an asphalt plant, right? And you never want to be held hostage. Asphalt plants turn a lot of volume, a lot of dollar volume, and we don't have that happening now. But there was a time that we had some people kind of holding us hostage, like well, what are you going to do if you get rid of me? And those were really difficult people to get rid of. And like you said, the moment that we did, everything got better. Like the very next week, people stepped up that you didn't think would step up, and everybody pulled together. And it was like, circle the wagons type of thing to protect the team and protect the company. And nothing demoralizes an employee like the owner tolerating a toxic employee, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
I guess that's the nickel version of what you're saying. And we've seen that same thing in our company. So yeah, that's awesome. All right. So this is really good, Michael. I really appreciate, all of this. Let's talk a little bit about what do you do for fun? I know you work a lot of hours. So what do you do for fun? Because this is a little bit about, you and the business and your kind of community relations. We'll talk about, well, actually, before we do that, let's talk about your involvement with the community. I kind of see you everywhere. You're in Rotary, so can you just talk about some of your community participation and what you and your company do?
So I've been in Rotary, which you're in Rotary too. I've been in Rotary, I think, for almost 30 years. I think I
No
started.
kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like when you were in your early 20s, you're in Rotary? That's
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I actually was in I got signed up for the Elks before I went
Okay.
into Rotary.
Okay.
So those are the two things that I do, and we do a lot of community stuff. We used to do a lot more. Things have kind of tapered off because of COVID, but we're starting to get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I see that you guys do a lot of stuff with youth sports and sponsoring teams, and and then anytime the community reaches out and says, "Hey, we need help," whether it's a construction-oriented thing, fixing something, you guys are one of the first people always involved in that. And so, kind of tell me why you do that. What's your thought process behind that?
I don't know. When somebody asks for help, I mean, if it's legit and I'll help them. I mean, it's just part of it. It's part of being in a small community. I mean,
Yeah.
I make my living from everybody in the community here, so you
Right.
have to give back. I mean, you just
Yeah.
can't take it all and not give back.
Yeah. 100%. Well, you know what's great about you, Michael, is it comes from a place of really wanting to help, and like you said, legitimate, because I'm sure like us, if you just said, if you answered every single call, it's all you do. And so you do kind of have to be somewhat selective on, and so kind of ours is mostly around kids, in the future. That's kind of what we're oriented around. Most of our charitable giving, 4-H, FFA, youth sports, those kinds of things. Because there were people, and I participated in all those things, and there were people that were doing it for me when I was a kid. And then that's a great way to give back. And it also adds clarity, because you can kind of get pretty crazy with the whole donation thing and donate yourself into bankruptcy pretty fast. And you have a team to protect and people to protect that relying on the company being successful. But the youth orientation for us has been super helpful for that. So do you guys just answer the call in general, or do you have some sort of alignment around how you prioritize your charitable contributions in the community?
So a lot of it's just what you were saying. It's based around the youth. I
Yep.
mean, it's they're starting out. They need uniforms, or they need sponsorships for their teams, or buying their animal at the fair.
Yep.
That's to get them going. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of where we're at on
Yeah.
as you get older and start realizing. I mean, back in the day when I started, I was sponsoring men's and women's softball teams and doing stuff for golf tournaments. But once you have kids, you realize
Yeah.
it's the youth. The youth is what needs the money, not the older people.
Right.
It's kind of the way I look at it.
Yep.
And it's nothing better than seeing a kid smile once you give him a check for something, an animal, or a sponsorship for his team. I mean, it's rewarding to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about, I think you were busy working and didn't do a lot of sports when you're growing up, but your kids are pretty heavily invested in sports. So can you talk about how you grew up versus how your kids are growing up, and kind of what I know that you're a pretty proud parent, and you should be. Your kids are kicking butt. So talk about that for us for a little bit.
So right now, my oldest son is in Mount Shasta at a basketball tournament right now.
Okay.
My youngest son is in Portola right now at a basketball tournament.
Okay.
So, and they're both doing really well there. I played a little bit of sports when I was younger, but it just wasn't really something that, your family does different things. We weren't heavy on sports.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we did more hunting and fishing and, cutting wood and, just hanging out with the family, which is what made me who I am today.
Absolutely.
But my wife, she's heavy into sports. She went to Colorado State. She's played at just about every sport there is. And my kids, they just, early on, we could tell that they were excellent athletes. And it's something they enjoy doing. And so we give them carte blanche. If you want to play it, go after it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. My kids also were very, very sports oriented. And I'll tell you, when you found, I don't think it even has to be sports. It could be, hunting. Because my oldest is really into hunting and fishing and all of that stuff too, in addition to the sports they played. But watching, I enjoyed playing sports. I loved it. But I'll tell you, the one thing I love even more is watching my kids do something they love. They've worked really hard on that skill set to be that they love, and to watch them go out and really do extremely well. And whatever that passion is even more fulfilling to watch than it was to play. And it's, I really, really enjoy it. So have you been able to catch quite a few games and follow them around a bit at this point?
Oh, I go to every game. Yeah, no matter what's going on. I mean, as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna bolt.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm really proud of you. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to watch it. I mean, it goes so fast. You just can't not. I missed a lot of baseball games because I was on fires over the summer. And I look back now and I thought, the money was good and all that, but it's not worth missing the games.
Yeah. Well, that is so well said. And there's, our kids understand we run businesses, and there's a few things you're going to have to miss here and there. But when you can make it, I promise you, since I'm older than you, my kids are all out of college and in their careers now. You will never regret 1 minute of pulling out early and going to watch them play and do the things that they love. You will never regret that. And the only regret you'll have is that you didn't do it more. Right. But you're doing a great job on that arena. So, all right, now what I want to kind of transition to now is let's talk about, so this is the North State Rocks podcast, right? So why is it great living where we live, working where we live, as opposed to, people in the city, for example, just contrasting the two different lifestyles? What do you do for fun? If somebody was coming to this area for the first time, the Susanville community that I know you're a big snowmobiler, right? And you guys have a wakeboard boat. So just kind of talk about some of the hunting, fishing. Talk about some of the things that make this area unique for you and your family.
I always say, we're living in God's country. I mean, it does not get any better than this. I mean, we
Yeah,
got 3 lakes within a half hour. We got the
yeah,
high mountain ranges. I mean, any hunting. I mean, you can hunt every species known to man here. I mean, except like zebras and stuff. But I mean, the chukar, the quail,
yeah,
dove, deer. I mean, my boys
yeah,
love hunting. So we
yeah,
hunt. We put in for tags every year, and I haven't drawn a tag in 20 years, but that's just part of the system, I guess. But um, no, just it's great. I mean, the commute to work's 5-10 minutes.
yeah,
Um, so we snowmobile, we wakeboard, side by side, dirt bikes, jet skis. I mean,
yeah,
anything and everything. I mean, everybody's all, well, you guys have all this stuff and you always do all this. I go, yeah, it's local. We stay here. We don't vacation. I mean, I haven't been on a vacation in probably 20 years. I mean,
yeah,
this is our vacation. I
right.
mean, we'll go take off on the weekends and go side by side in our dirt bike. And I mean, it's
Yeah,
just a beautiful place to live. It's not
yeah,
overrun with people. I mean, it's quality lifestyle. I mean, we're not breathing in smog. I mean, it's great.
yeah. Well, you said that beautifully. Good job, buddy. That's great. I'm ready to move to Susanville right now.
All right,
That's incredible.
sweet. I'll
Yeah.
build you a house.
That's awesome. All right. So, kind of tell me, let's get back to just a little bit more on your business stuff. So, where do you see the future of your company? Kind of, I know you're highly diversified. What do you think is going to be the main pillars of your business over the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that's a good question, Perry. You're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, I am putting you on the spot. Hell yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting time right now. I had one of the best years I've ever had this year.
Okay.
I don't know next year. We got a lot on the books, kind of like you guys, looking
Yep.
good.
Yep.
The following year, I mean, it's going to be a little shaky. Nothing I can really predict on that.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what interest rates are going to do. I mean, our little town's kind of dying here. I mean, it's sad to say, and I hate to say it, but I mean, we're not getting any new business here. Um,
Right.
Things are just kind of status quo. I mean,
Yeah.
and the thing that's hard about it is you drive 80 miles to Reno, and they're building 10,000 homes a year there.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know. I know my business model. We're chasing a lot more, if you want to call it government stuff,
Yep.
prevailing wage jobs, but you don't know if all that stuff's going to dry up. Um,
Right.
you just don't know. So you
Yeah.
just got to scoop up as much as you can and just kind of roll through. It's kind of my philosophy, but I mean, it's hard to say.
So is it fair to say that kind of your thought process is be as diversified as possible so that you can pivot to wherever the work, whatever the type of work that comes, you're able to capitalize on it. Is that a fair statement?
Fair statement.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a book. It's like a grammar school level read, but it's called "Who Moved My Cheese." Have you ever read that book or heard of that book?
Uh-uh.
Yeah. So the premise of the book, it's really simple, but it's basically two little mice and two little mini people, and they both have names, and they're in this big maze, right? Like a mouse maze, and the four of them are all looking for cheese. They're running around, because they got to eat. So they're running around the maze looking for cheese. And nickel version is, one day they find a little bit of cheese and they keep working. Then they find a little more cheese. One day they find a mountain of cheese, like the type of mountain that's like, oh my gosh. So the little mini people, the size of the mouse in this example, they build, they get fat, they start getting super comfortable. They build huge houses right next to the cheese. They really plant roots solidly in that section of the maze, and the mice, every day they eat their share of cheese that they need to survive, but then they put on their shoes and they're out every day searching the maze for more cheese. And the fat little people are sitting there going, "Why are you look? We got a mountain right here of cheese. Why are you guys out doing that?" And that's just how the mice are wired. They just go and look every day. Well, in the far corner of the maze, they find, a great big thing of cheese. And so they recognize that they know where other cheese is in the maze. One day, the mountain of cheese disappears. And the little mini people are, victim mindset. Who moved our cheese? This is bullshit. We have our houses built here. Whole life is wrapped around this. And now we have to move. I'm overweight. Don't even want to go look through the maze. And the whole point is that you can never get comfortable doing what you're doing, right? And that's the nickel version. And I think that your company really exemplifies that. You guys aren't just a vertical guys. You guys are doing underground work. You're doing seal coating. You're doing concrete work, but yet you are the dominant company in the region for vertical construction, and have an excellent reputation. And then I feel like you have leveraged that reputation into doing all that other type of work, and that your brand name is so strong that even the very first time you did seal coating, people are like, "That's Michael. He's going to do a good job," even though you'd never done it before, right? And so that's something I really admire about your company. That's a really incredible thing, where our company is kind of very much around building a niche that has really high boundaries to entry. And, people are always asking me, why have you thought about moving out of California? Because of all the challenges associated with the state. And I'm like, well, number one, I'm like Michael, I love where I live. So we are either going to be part of the solution and try and make a change and convince people that you're missing one of the most beautiful areas on the planet to live. We do quite a bit of traveling out of the area and out of the country. And I'll tell you, every time I come back, I'm like, why did we even leave? It is so beautiful where we get to live. So anyway, congratulations on having just an incredible model. And congratulations on 30 years of being in business, stud. That's pretty amazing, man.
Thanks.
Pretty amazing. So I think it's a good time to wrap. I mean, we got through pretty quick. Is there anything that you're thinking about that we should cover that you would want to talk about at this point?
Well, no, like you said, every time I drive over to Reno and see all them subdivisions and all them houses going in, I think to myself, man, if I'd have just dove in over here early on, I'd be one of those big boys over there. And I get over there and I drive around and I fight the traffic, fight the people. And like you said, when you cross the border and come back home, it's all well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just hope, and I know it's possible for somebody to do some economic development for around here. Cause I mean, look at like Downeyville. I mean, all the mountain biking and all the activities Downeyville's doing. And we have all that stuff here. Just nobody promotes it.
Yeah. So let's just talk about what can we do? When I'm talking about you and me and people that might be listening, what can we do to try and open people's eyes and try and be more catalyst for change on trying to, instead of having a population in these rural communities that continues to shrink slowly, how do we reverse that trend in your mind?
Well, you're doing it right now with your podcast. I mean, it's going to get people out there knowing, what kind of place this is. I mean, one of the biggest things is getting people. There's people that live here that know how to do all this, the promotion and promoting what we have. They just don't have the platform to do it. So it's going to take getting involved with them and getting them on your podcast here and have them explain to people what's out there. I mean, we're a hidden gem.
We absolutely are. We are. And that's what I just, I know we're dealing with like the prison closing or whatever. But all of those things that you talked about, the lakes close by, there is no traffic. It's a 5-minute commute to work. People are super friendly. People want this community to succeed, and these areas to succeed. And I'm super hopeful. I don't know why, because the trends are down, but I feel like we have brought a lot of jobs to the region, and that's one of the things I feel like we have these incredible kids that graduate from these schools that have good work ethic, that haven't been on screens and not been in the outdoors like a lot of the kids that are raised in the really urban communities. And I want to be able a way to retain those kids. And I'm really proud that we have several, high school graduates that come right out of high school and go to work for us and stay here. Our most tenured employee is a Bernie High School graduate, and he's been with the company for 28 years, and he's only worked here. And that guy is he's an incredible hope for me on what we can continue to do. But yeah, and I appreciate what you're doing, because it starts with, we need jobs too, right? So we've got to people have to have a way to make a living. And that's one of the things. There's a lot of government jobs around Susanville, but the private sector growth is what I feel like we need to be focusing on. You've lived there longer than me, so give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we need jobs. I mean, we need good paying jobs.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, still the cost of living here is not cheap.
Right.
I mean,
right.
And to have a family, with a couple of kids and live the American dream, I mean, you got to make some good money, and you got to have medical benefits. I mean, and that's what's getting harder, in the private sector to provide that stuff. I have medical benefits for my employees, and it costs an arm and a leg.
It does. It does. And it's one of those unchecked costs that I feel like it goes up 20% every year, and there's just seems to be no cap to the damn thing. It's unbelievable.
Right. It's crazy.
But yeah. So, well, anyway, I think that your message about how beautiful it is where we live, how many, opportunities for recreation there is, I think that was really well said. And, you're doing your part on creating more jobs. I'm trying to do my part on creating more jobs. We just need to get more people involved in recognizing this community is so special. So I really appreciate your time on that, and hopefully we can continue to get. So what I would need from you, help me out. Think about some good people that would be helpful on that arena to have on this podcast.
Okay.
So thinking about that, and so next time we talk, give me some names, because you are really really tied into the community well, and I would love to hear your feedback on that. Okay.
Will do.
Okay. All right, buddy. Well, thank you, and good luck to your kids today. Which way are you going? You going to Mount Shasta? Are you going to Portola? Or are you trying to hit both?
Portola.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, tell Landon good luck, and I'm expecting to score at least 25 a game right now. Okay.
He's averaging 29 points a game, and he is number 1 in California, and he's number 2 in the United States.
You got to be kidding me.
If you pull it up on Max Preps, he showed me. I go, you're full of shit. And he's all, no, Dad, here it is.
Well, so here's what I would say. I've been a basketball coach in the community for quite a few years. Haven't done it in a few years, but I'm going to tell you, every coach looks at that Max Preps, and he will be getting doubled and triple teamed and moving forward. So that will continue to be more and more challenging as the season goes on. But good for him. That's amazing.
The last game we were at, they had watched his film. In fact, 2 of the kids told him that's all we did our last 2 practices was watched your film. Watched film on Landon. They double teamed him the whole game. He still put up 31 points.
Oh my God.
So he's just, and he had 102 temperature when he played.
No way.
I mean, the drive, both my boys, the drive is insane. I mean, if you can bottle that shit up and sell it, it would be crazy.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Well, spoken like, rightly so, a proud dad. I absolutely love that. So, hey, tell Kim I said hi. I appreciate your time, and have a great, safe travels, because I know it's going to be pretty snowy. So travel safe, okay?
All right. Thanks, Perry.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate your time, bud.
Yep. Take care.